It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of February 19th, 1999. We got 4 movies to look at today, so let's just go ahead and get right to it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Joe Johnston's October Sky. This is the story of Homer H. Hickam Jr., played here by Jake Gyllenhaal. It's based on a true story. A coal miner's son who was inspired by the launch of Sputnik 1 in 1957 to take up rocketry against his father's wishes and eventually becomes a NASA engineer. And October Sky is an anagram for Rocket Boys, the title of the 1998 memoir in which the film this is based off of. It's also used in a period radio broadcast describing Sputnik 1 as it crossed the October sky. And the band that this is based off of said that Universal Studios marketing people got involved and they had to change the title because, according to their research, women over 30 would have never seen a movie called Rocket Boys, so the book was later re-released with the name in order to capitalize on interest in the film. And it made for a pretty enjoyable film. This is written by Lewis Kolick, who's a name you might not be familiar with, but you've definitely seen his work. He wrote Unlawful Entry, Judgment Night, Bulletproof, Ghost of Mississippi. He later wrote Along Came a Spider and Hardball, uncredited. He also wrote Ladder 49. He's written a lot of good movies. He also wrote Flaming Hot, which just came out recently. And it's a pretty good movie. You've got a lot of young actors in here. Jake Gyllenhaal, Chris Owen, who'll be seen in American Pie later in the year, and some veterans, Laura Dern, Chris Cooper. It's a really enjoyable film, and it's definitely something different from Joe Johnston, who at this point had been known for mostly his bigger budgeted films like The Page Master, Jumanji, The Rocketeer, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. This is a more simpler, quieter film, and I think it works out best for him. I think it's a very enjoyable film. It shows the potential that Jake Gyllenhaal would eventually show in films down the road. I think it's a great film. It's a very enjoyable film. I highly recommend checking it out. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. Probably the best movie overall, not even a question, the best movie that was released this weekend, Mike Judge's Office Space. This is Mike Judge's first foray into live-action filmmaking. Of course, he hadn't been known for his work on Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill. It's actually based on one of his cartoons that he did for Liquid Television called Milton, and was the second film overall, with the first one being Beavis and Butthead Do America, and follows it's a satirical comedy that is very much kind of very equivalent to The Office, except much different in terms of its tone. You have a typical 1990s software company focusing on a handful of individuals wary of their jobs, including Ron Livingston, and also you have a subplot with Jennifer Aniston in one of her first film roles after Friends, while she was making Friends, I should say. But the film's sympathetic depiction of ordinary information technology workers garnered a cult following within that field, and the film was not a big hit when it came out. It was a box office disappointment, but it did get good reviews from critics. But as it grew, as the film evolved later on down the road in terms of home video sales, DVD sales, lots of repeats on Comedy Central, it became a cult classic, and it's often considered Mike Judge's cinematic opus in terms of his movies overall, and I can't really blame him for it. This movie is really, really good. It's a very good premise. You have Ron Livingston as this guy who decides one day, you know what, he wants to get fired, and he's going to figure out what it will take to do that, and while he's trying to do that, he's actually being seen as somebody who gets promoted to more and more upper management, while he's also trying to break down the company itself from within, and it's a very funny movie. Jennifer Aniston's very good here. Gary Cole as Bill Lumbergh's great. Stephen Root as Milton is very good. I mean, Stephen Root's one of our great actors, man. I mean, that guy can play all these different roles, and sometimes you'll hardly ever realize that that's the same guy that plays Bill on King of the Hill. David Herman, you've also seen on King of the Hill and Futurama. Diedrich Bader, you see Richard Riel from Grounded for Life is also in here. A phenomenal cast overall here, and it's just a funny movie, man. It's a funny, funny movie that really never gets old after so many times of watching it. It's so funny. It's so quotable. I mean, what more do I even need to say about this movie? It's an amazing film. I'm glad it has had the cult following it's had since then, because it really is the best thing that Mike Judge has directed. Even though Mike Judge's films overall are mostly very good. I've never seen a really bad film of his. I think his worst one is Extract, but even that's not terrible. It's just not as good as some of his other films, but it's still what makes Mike Judge so special. I mean, he's never really made anything that I've actually really hated. Even something like The Good Family, which was not a great show overall, but at the same time, it was at least trying to do something funny, and sometimes it would work, but most times not so much. But I still like that show. I still like it. I still like that show. I still like what Mike Judge does. Anytime he has a new project, I'm already set to watch it. I mean, What more do I need to say, man? Office Space. Great, great film. So let's go ahead and move on to the next film, and that is Jawbreaker. A film that is very much inspired by the movie Heathers and is often compared to it. And you basically have the story where you have a plot involving a popular female clique, the use of bright pastels, and the ostensible accidental killing of one of its members. And you have Rebecca Gayheart, Rose McGowan, who had just come off of Charm. Gayheart actually was coming off of Urban Legend. And Julie Benz, who was relatively new at this point. And interestingly enough, she actually went to the same high school that I eventually graduated from, Franklin Regional. She's from Murraysville. She's actually been at the Steel City Con a couple of times, and I've never gotten a chance to meet her. My dad knows her probably more than I do, because from what I've been told, she actually has taught some of her. He teaches ice skating, and I think he told me that he teaches members from the Benz family. So I think he has seen her before, but I'm not really sure. As I don't know the full story on that, but I always thought that was interesting, and that's why I kind of got more interested in Julie Benz because of that. And she's a great actress. I mean, I've seen her in this. I've seen her in Dexter. The movie overall is very good. It's definitely taking a lot of influence from Heathers. While it's not as good as Heathers, it's still pretty funny. I do like watching these three women working off each other. They're very good here. You also have Carol Kane in here as well. Judy Greer, Pam Grier. I mean, anything Pam Grier touches. I mean, even if it's a bad movie, she's at least giving it her all, man. This director, Darren Stein, I don't know what else he's done here, but I think this is the only notable thing he's directed as far as I know. Yeah, he's directed mostly stuff that I've never really seen, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, but I have seen this film, and like I said, it's a good film. It's a film that really does work. Kind of like with Office Space, it did not do well at the box office, and was also seen as a critical failure as well, but it has had that same kind of cult following that kind of Office Space did. Not to that extreme, but people are more and more coming around to it, and I think they should come around to it, because it is actually a much funnier film than I think a lot of people would give it credit for. I'd say definitely check it out if you haven't seen it already. It's very good. I really enjoy it. Jawbreaker. So, on to the last film we have here, and that is The Apple. Oh yes, the futuristic world of 1994. You could probably tell that this is a re-release of the 1980 sci-fi music film from Menem Golan. If you don't know who he is, he's one of the people behind Canon Globus. And the story of The Apple, you have Catherine Mary Stewart as a young singer named BB, who, in futuristic 94, signs to an evil label named Boogaloo International Music. It deals with the themes of conformity versus rebellion, and makes use of the biblical allegory, including the tale of Adam and Eve, and is often considered one of the worst films ever made. And Mystery Science 3000, they've actually tackled this one before, actually as riff tracks, but I believe this is the same movie, unless I'm seeing another Apple film that came out in 1998. I don't think I am, but it's interesting that they re-released it then, but I've never seen the film, so unfortunately I can't really say too much about it. So, but one of the worst films ever made, which could mean it's a fun, guilty pleasure movie, but at least that's what I've heard from the people that have actually seen it. But other than that, though, I don't really know myself. But could be one that could be a ton of fun, though. The Apple. So that's the last film that we have on here. So on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll have 4 movies to look at next time, including Nicolas Cage and Joel Schumacher's 8mm, Juliette Lewis and the Other Sister, The Ensemble 200 Cigarettes, and there's a couple of other movies here, but I'm going to go with the one that I actually have some idea of what this is. Kerry Russell in 8 Days a Week. There's like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other films I could probably put in here as well, but I'll just go with that one here. So we'll have 4 movies to look at next time, but until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to see more videos like this on this channel. Now, don't go away, too far away, because coming up after I upload this will be a new Time About the Movies flashback, where we'll go to the beginning of November with a couple of notable films, including John Carpenter's They Live, U2, Rattle and Hum, Everybody's All-American with Dennis Quaid and Jessica Lange, and Diane Lane in Leonard Nimoy's follow-up to Three Men and a Baby, The Radically Different, The Good Mother, featuring a young Liam Neeson. So we'll head back to 1988, and that's going to be coming up right after this.